Welcome everyone to this month's webinar. It is the truth about cancer in animals. For those of you new to the group, new to the membership, I am Dr. Janet Rourke. I'm a veterinarian in Central Texas. I'm the essential oil vet, your essential oil vet. And this webinar is exclusive for people in the EOVET membership, AKA you guys. So if you know anybody that really needs to watch this replay after we watch it, please invite them into the membership. It's very low cost. It's worth it just for these webinars, to be honest. So we're going to go ahead and get started. This is not my favorite topic to talk about. It's one that we have to talk about, though, because it's a fairly common problem in animals, and it's one we do see quite a lot. But before we get started, we're going to start off with something super fun, which is a giveaway. We're going to do a giveaway, and I'm going to start off with a giveaway of 2 oils that are really happy. One is Citrus Bloom. This is our springtime blend. It's not really specific like a cancer oil, but it's got wild orange, grapefruit, lavender, Roman chamomile, and magnolia in it. And so you can actually use this topically on animals. It's actually a pretty good one for tumors because citrus oils are very high in limonene, which are anti-cancer. So we're going to give away that and an arborvitae. And for those of you that don't know about arborvitae, this is one of the oils that is in the Kill It blend from the group, and it smells like the forest in Michigan. It's what it smells like to me. I grew up in Michigan. I spent the first 28 years of my life there, and except for 4 years when I went to Ohio for undergrad. But that is definitely that's what it smells like. It reminds me of. So who is going to win these 2 oils tonight? Who wants them? Comment me in the chat. Ashley says, I could see that smelling like Michigan. Ashley, are you in Michigan? Oh, I think you guys do want this one. Margie says her dogs need it. I don't know how to pronounce your name, so if I get this wrong, I'm sorry. But Vanaja or Vanaja, Vanaja. So you win these ones. You win these ones. So send me an email, reply to one of my emails with your mailing address so we can get these out to you. Okay. And we'll do another giveaway at the end. So stick around, guys. So here's why we're talking about this today. The problem that we are faced with is cancer. And according to the AVMA, which is the American Veterinary Medical Association, 1 in 4 dogs, that's 25% of dogs, will at some stage of their life develop neoplasia. It might actually be 1 in 3 now, honestly. And they said that half of dogs over 10 will develop cancer. It's very common. 1 in 5 cats will be diagnosed with cancer sometime during their lifetime, and 80% of gray horses over 15 develop melanoma. If you have a gray horse, it is very likely that they will have melanoma at some point in their life. So if they get to be over 15. So this is a topic that's really near and dear to my heart that you might have seen in my emails going out over the past week. But I hate cancer, guys. I hate it. This first picture is my kitty Lyra. Where was this picture taken? This picture was taken in my bedroom when I was in vet school. So I'm looking at like my books on the bookshelf and stuff like that. So she was my heart kitty. She was when did I get her? I got her when I was 19, I think, 19. And I just moved off campus from undergrad. So I got her my third year of undergrad. And she was my kitten. I got her as a kitten. She was just like a barn cat, free kitten on the side of the road type situation. And I just fell in love with her. And she was definitely my heart cat. She had asthma. She had a heart murmur ever since she was a kitten. She had a hernia. in her belly, and an umbilical hernia, and she had developed epilepsy in kind of her senior years. We finally lost her. She did one of these such things where she just kind of stopped eating all of a sudden. She was 18 when it happened. Okay, so she's very senior. But I got her through all these things like her whole life, and she just stopped eating one day. And after a couple of days of not eating, decided to do an ultrasound on her and found some not so great looking things, decided to do surgery and see what was going on. And she had lymphoma. She died of lymphoma. We decided not to wake her up from the surgery, and it was just throughout her whole entire body. She's very good at covering it up. And the fact that she was on frankincense before her epilepsy, I think, is what kept her going as long as she did with that particular cancer. So she was 18 at the time. She lived a very good long life, and she was my princess kitty Lyra. And this little black Scottish terrier in the middle here, that is Logan. Logan was a dog that we got him when he was about a year old, kind of a rescue situation from a relative who couldn't take care of him. He was just full of mats, and they didn't have the resources or physical ability to be able to care for a little terrier puppy. And so we got Logan when he was about a year old, and it was when my husband and I actually first got married. He was kind of our first dog together, and he was an amazing dog. Oh my gosh, he was the best boy. He would have jumped into anybody's car. If you were the last person in the room, you were his very, very best friend, and everyone loved him. I had people try to steal him from me, like my neighbors. Sometimes he would run away because he was a terrier, and we lived out in the country in Michigan. And they would be like, well, if you can't keep him in, we have a really good enclosure, and maybe you shouldn't have him. And I'm like, you can't have my dog. He was one of those guys, just like a little love bug and just the best snuggler on the whole planet. Well, he was 11 when he was diagnosed with lymphoma. I noticed his lymph nodes starting to swell. And this was all before I ever did anything with essential oils. And we ended up losing him shortly after we lost Lyra. Actually, he was 11. Progressed very, very quickly. Not a situation where chemotherapy would have been an option with him because of the type of cancer, the type of cells that they were, and it was just devastating. We tried some natural things with him, and we were able to keep him comfortable. But actually, I was using essential oil actually when he was diagnosed, so we were able to actually we used frankincense, and we used DDR prime, and we used all the things with him, and he stayed very, very comfortable. Luckily, lymphoma is not a painful disease until his respiratory rate was just such that we just knew it was time, and very, very devastating situation. And then this horse on the right is Chops, and he was an off-the-track thoroughbred that he was kind of a what do we call him? He was like you can see the dark spots on him. It's like he's a paint, except for he's all like a dark bay and a regular bay kind of mix. And so he was just colored really, really beautifully. Those are not sweat marks. That's actually his color. And he could jump the moon. He was very, very talented. He would jump anything you put in front of him, over 4 foot. And he was my dream horse. So much so that when we first moved to Texas, I actually spent way too much money on him, everything in our savings account to buy him, and did not tell my husband, and we almost got a divorce over it. So don't do that. I don't recommend that you just buy multi-$1,000 horses without notifying your spouse. But he was incredible, really incredible horse. And he, about 9 months after I bought him, actually started getting he was hemorrhaging from the nose, and kind of was bleeding a little bit. His lymph nodes started swelling. We did some biopsies, and it was confirmed he had lymphoma. He lived for about a month after that, and I was doing everything with him. I tried chemo. I was contacting every specialty veterinary hospital that I knew of and every specialist. Being a veterinarian, I had some connections. And everyone was just like, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing you can do. You can try this, but it usually doesn't work. And unfortunately, he stopped eating and ended up passing away peacefully on his own. But he so all this to say, I have a very personal hatred for cancer and lymphoma in particular. Every single one of these animals died of lymphoma, and my mom actually is in remission, thank goodness, praise the Lord, from lymphoma as well. She was diagnosed with lymphoma when I was in vet school, and she's been in remission for over 15 years now. She did chemotherapy. The chemotherapy completely destroyed her lungs, and she has to be on oxygen now, and she can't do a lot physically. It actually damaged her heart as well. And so she is not as physically able as she used to be before the cancer and before all the chemotherapy. It really did a number on her, but it did get rid of the cancer. And so she is still alive and doing well. And I'm super, super grateful for that. But it's another one of those things, like my mom even had lymphoma. Like, we had this saying in vet school. Well, we still say it, but we learned it in vet school. I learned it in vet school that lymphoma doesn't care. Lymphoma doesn't care about age, doesn't care about species. It doesn't care about anything. It just doesn't care, and it will take over, and it is usually not a great prognosis. So all that to say, here is what we are going to cover tonight. So we're going to cover the definition. What is cancer really? What causes cancer? And then we're going to talk about how we can best prevent cancer. And then also what to do if, what can I do if my animal gets cancer? So there's some different options there, whether it's palliative or actually anti-tumoral and that sort of thing. And if we have time, we'll do some questions at the end, but I have a feeling we'll probably push those to Sunday because I am taking my time here today. Hold on. Oh no, what just happened? All right, hopefully that's back. Can you guys see that? Okay, cool. All right, so let's get started with some definitions, shall we? So definitions, what is cancer really? Cancer, also known as neoplasia, is the uncontrolled abnormal growth of cells or tissues in the body. So what happens is these cells, normal cells, they kind of mutate and they turn into not normal cells, and they just start growing like crazy. And that's what develops an abnormal growth called a neoplasm or a tumor. So the actual growth itself is called a neoplasm or tumor. And these can be benign or they can be malignant. It depends on the type of cell and what's going on. If it's benign tumors tend to grow very slowly. And that is, there's a spectrum, right? Sometimes even benign tumors can grow kind of quickly in the grand scheme of things, but they tend to grow slowly. They tend to displace tissue as opposed to invading other tissue. And they don't spread to other parts of the body. So it's an isolated, just kind of like one little lump. And older animals do tend to get these, and a lot of times they're benign, and we aren't super worried about them as from a medical standpoint. And then we have tumors that are malignant, and malignant means malignant tumors have an unpredictable growth rate. Sometimes it's very slow, sometimes it's extremely rapid, like in the case with Logan, it was so fast with him. Malignant tumors tend to invade other tissues that surround that tumor. So they start as just like an innocent little tumor, and then they start invading the tissue next to it, the muscle next to it, the bone next to it. And it's and it becomes this immovable mass kind of a thing. Malignant tumors tend to spread or metastasize to other parts of the body. So metastasis means it's spread to a different place in the body. Oftentimes these tumors metastasize to filtering organs. We call them filtering organs. So the organs that filter out the different things in our body, the liver, which is filtering out all the toxins and filters all the blood, the lungs, which filter all the air and everything else, the digestive tract, also a filtering organ and immune supporting organ, kidneys, a lot of times they'll spread to the kidneys, the skin, or even the bone. So all of these are, a lot of times when we find the tumors on the skin, sometimes it's a primary skin tumor, and sometimes it's a secondary tumor, and the original tumor is actually somewhere else in the body, like the liver or the spleen or something like that. So with a tumor or a mass, what do you say? Do you call it a tumor or do you call it a mass? That really just depends. It's a description of the actual swelling or the appearance of the neoplasm. Sometimes we'll call something a mass if we don't know that it's actually a tumor. We don't know that it's actually cancer cells. Sometimes a mass can form like an abscess is technically kind of a mass, like a little lump sometimes. Until we know what it is, we might call it a mass. Sometimes we'll call it a tumor. Sometimes we'll call it a mass. Sometimes we'll call tumor masses, and that's okay. They're kind of interchangeable. And then when we're talking about cancer versus neoplasia, this can get a little confusing. I don't want you to like overthink it, but cancer is always neoplasia, but neoplasia is not always cancer. So when we say the word cancer, we're typically referring to malignant neoplasms or something that has metastasized. So we're talking about kind of the more aggressive types of neoplasia versus like lipoma. A lipoma is still neoplasia, but I wouldn't, is it really cancer? I don't really know. So usually not. So, but usually when we say cancer, the big C, it's usually a bad word. It's usually associated with very bad types of neoplasia. Okay, does that make sense, guys? Okay, so that's our definitions. Now, what does cancer look like? What does it look like? And the answer is it depends. It depends on the type of cancer that it is and the location of where that cancer is. Sometimes it looks like abdominal swelling. Maybe they just look a little, kind of like you can see their ribs, but sometimes their belly is kind of distended. Sometimes it can look like bleeding from the mouth, the nose, like Chops, he was bleeding from the nose and he had swollen lymph nodes. I was really, really hoping it was just an infection, but it wasn't. It could be bleeding from skin lesions, like this nice little lesion on the skin on this photo, or other body openings. So they can bleed from, their anus or that sort of thing. Sometimes it looks just like difficulty breathing. That's kind of what got Logan in the end, like he was just having a really hard time breathing. So we knew it was time for him because the lymph nodes in his lung had swollen so much and they'd gotten so big that was impeding his respiration. Sometimes it looks like decreased appetite or difficulty eating or drinking. Now, if you have an animal that has a decreased appetite or they have difficulty eating or drinking, that doesn't mean they automatically have cancer. I don't want you guys to just like jump to that conclusion just because your dog quit eating for a day. Okay, that might be what it is, but it's probably they just ate something they weren't supposed to, or if it's a lab, they could have gotten it. They might have a foreign body. They might just not be hungry that day. If it's cat, sometimes they're picky. Maybe you change their food and they don't like it. So that's not. It has to be like multiple things, right? Lumps or bumps, obviously those could be tumors. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. Sometimes they are and they're benign and nothing to worry about. Sometimes they're something more serious. Discolored skin can sometimes look like, can actually be cancer. Wounds that will not heal a lot of times are, there's usually sometimes a foreign body there or something's not right that wound isn't healing. So there might be something in there, or it might be because it's cancer. Digestive problems like diarrhea or vomiting that won't stop even with treatment. Sudden changes in weight, whether it's like they've gained too much weight, like they have fluid in their belly, or and very suddenly. So or they've lost weight and you're still giving tons of food and you're like, what is even happening? Unexplained lameness, osteosarcoma will sometimes show up like this. They just all of a sudden start limping. Now, so can a torn cruciate ligament, so can a broken bone, so can a sprain or a strain or something like that. It can be can cause lameness, but sometimes, that's why we do radiographs on those guys, and we can kind of see what's going on. Heat, pain, or swelling can sometimes be cancer, and of course, a visible mass kind of points to the right, that direction. So how do we really know if it's cancer or not? Maybe they have digestive problems, or maybe they have a lump, or maybe they have, so their skin's a different color. How do we know what it is with all those kind of like non-specific signs that we just talked about? So the way you can tell if it's cancer or not is really by going to your veterinarian and getting some exams. So getting a complete history on that animal, a physical exam, your vet's going to take a really good look at all the skin and everything that's going on, potentially getting some radiographs or x-rays, especially if there's a lameness involved, or if there's any coughing. They might do an ultrasound if it's the abdomen. That's what we did with Lyra. She had kind of stopped eating, so we did an ultrasound, and we kind of just went step by step with her. We did some blood work on her. Her blood work was completely normal, you guys. Sometimes with cancer, blood work is completely normal. So if there's something wrong with your animal and the blood work is completely normal, I would press for more information. I would press for more diagnostics if you know something's wrong with your animal, because the blood work with cancer is almost very, very commonly very normal. Not always. And then, of course, if there's a mass, they can do a needle biopsy and do a cytology. They look at the cells underneath a microscope, or they take a biopsy. This can be, surgical. This is often required to determine if a tumor is benign or malignant, and they may also include a lymph node biopsy at the same time. And then more advanced diagnostics might include a CT scan, an MRI, or a PET scan. And then certainly you can always do a consultation with a veterinary oncologist once we get a little bit more information. So what are the most common types of cancer in the different species? So with dogs, the most common types of cancer are mast cell tumors, or skin, which is a skin cancer. Melanomas, and this is a very common oral cancer in dogs. It's usually malignant if it's in the mouth. If it's in the skin, that melanoma may be benign, but if it's in the mouth, it's almost always malignant and usually quite aggressive if it's melanoma. We have lymphoma, of course, my least favorite. And this lymphoma is basically a cancer of a type of blood cell, the lymphocytes, and also the lymph tissue. And the lymph tissue is found throughout the body in the GI tract, lymph nodes, spleen, and liver and bone marrow. And so because, and there's lots of lymph nodes in the lungs as well. So this is something that affects the whole entire body, typically with lymphoma. Very rarely is it just one lymph node that's affected. Osteosarcoma is bone cancer. This is extremely common, and especially in larger breeds of dogs. Hemangiosarcoma is also very common. This is highly malignant. It can pretty much spread anywhere because this is a blood-based cancer, and so the blood goes everywhere in the body. So it's often in the heart or the spleen. A lot of times it's found in the spleen, and it's typically not found until the very advanced stages. They can live with it for a long time until they have a bleed, and then it's an emergency situation, or until they stop eating completely, or they're anemic. So a lot of times we don't know the first symptom that we see is a pretty significant symptom in those guys. Cats, the most common types of cancer are lymphoma, especially if they have feline leukemia virus, or if they've been exposed to FIV. And lymphoma can affect any age, any breed, any sex. Lymphoma doesn't care, right? Lymphoma doesn't care. And then cats also get squamous cell carcinoma. This is usually the oral cancer that they get. Surgery is possible in only about 10% of those cases. Fibrosarcomas are also very common. This is soft tissue based. They're locally very aggressive and very slow to spread to other parts of the body. A lot of times you can surgically debulk these or remove them. And then we also have mammary tumors, which is breast cancer. And in cats, these are 90% malignant. So if you have a cat with a mammary tumor, it's usually a really, really bad prognosis. Horses, the most common types of cancer in horses are squamous cell carcinoma, or SCC. This is often related to sun exposure and horses with pink skin, especially on their face. Usually it's found in horses over 12 years of age and often found around the eyes. Pink-skinned horses like paints, or if they have, big blaze, that sort of thing. Blue-eyed horses tend to be a little bit more prone to having pink skin on the face, so they're a little bit more prone to them. From what I've seen. And then melanoma is very, very common in gray horses. Like we said, 80% of gray horses will get melanoma. Melanoma in horses is typically benign. It is not awesome because it can be kind of locally very aggressive, and the location of them can sometimes be cause problems and irritation and kind of wounds, especially if they rupture or the tumors rupture or anything like that. So melanoma is typically found in gray horses, and the most common locations are under the tail, on the genitals, or either on the tail or the perineal area, or on the head. But they can be anywhere on melanomas. I've seen them everywhere. And then we have sarcoids, and sarcoids can be anywhere. They can occur anywhere. A lot of times they're on the legs, not always, or the face or the ears or the neck. The sarcoids can be very difficult to treat, but they're very superficial, and they're not invasive, except for sometimes a little bit locally. They look bad, but they're rarely fatal, unless it's completely neglected. Okay, so those are the types of cancer. Laura, are mammary tumors in dogs rare? No, we definitely have mammary tumors, especially if a dog has not been spayed. It is fairly common, but it's not one of the most common types. These other ones are more common, and I think probably because most dogs are kind of spayed. There aren't a lot of intact females unless they're being used for breeding compared to cats. So how can we best prevent cancer? This is what you guys want to know, right? Like, okay, I don't have to deal with it, but I want to make sure my dog doesn't get it. And this is Miles eating his raw food over here, in our old house in Austin. I miss that house. So I had really good internet at that house. So how do we prevent it? The best way to prevent it is with the kind of like the foundation of health that we always talk about: nutrition, decreasing toxic load, decreasing stress, making sure there's decreased inflammation in their diet, supporting the gut. All of those things that we talk about every single week absolutely applies. So the best way to prevent it is decreasing toxins in the home and the yard. And this does include smoking. If you guys smoke, please, or you have a smoker in the house, please take this time to be like, I'll do it for my dog. I'll quit for my dog. Please stop smoking. My dad actually died of lung cancer. He was a smoker, and he died very quickly from stage 4 lung cancer. He was diagnosed. When he was diagnosed, it was stage 4 already. So decrease the toxins in your home and yard. There are very, 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 what's the word I'm thinking of? It is very close. There's a very close association with lawn pesticides and fertilizers linked to certain types of cancers, lymphoma being one of them. Okay. So pesticides in the yard, weed killers, that kind of thing in the yard. Your dogs go out in the yard. Like, you might not think about it, but you're like, oh, well, it's been 24 hours. It should be fine. No, trust me, it's not fine. So don't have that stuff in your home and yard. What you clean your house with is super, super important. Your dogs are walking on the floors. Your cats are laying on the beds and the blankets. So what you wash your clothes and your blankets and your floors and your counters with, all of that really, really matters. And we can use essential oils instead, guys. Okay, dogs and cats, we want to feed a high quality protein source, making sure that it's human grade. Nutrition is key. I did a whole webinar just on nutrition that you guys have the replay available to you. So go check that out. Make sure you feed an anti-inflammatory diet and support those guts. And the way we do that is with prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes, omega-3s, very, very important at preventing cancer and supporting those cells. And super greens. I have a question mark by super greens. Are they really helpful? I don't know. They certainly don't hurt anything, but that's something that you can consider as well. What about spaying and castration? This is one of those things. If you want to prevent mammary cancer in cats and dogs, spaying or prostate cancer in male dogs, spaying and castration is really, really important. It absolutely can prevent those types of cancer. Does it make them more prone to other types of cancer? Maybe. I don't know. There's just not a lot of research out there about it. There's research that supports every choice out there. So, I'm a big proponent of like whatever works best for you. I'm supporting of it. I like spaying and castrating at a younger age because of the mammary cancer and prostate cancer, testicular cancer. There are genetic predispositions in certain breeds. So boxers are going to pretty much get mast cell tumors, guys. I'm sorry. Early detection and treatment is absolutely critical. You guys, if you have a teeny tiny lump on your dog, like start using oils, start talking to your vet about it. Don't wait until it's like the size of a grapefruit before you do anything. Because that makes it a lot harder to treat and a lot harder to address. Minimize sun exposure if you can, especially with pink-skinned animals. If you have a horse out in the sun that has pink skin, use sun protection. There's different sunscreens you can do that are horse. I have a homemade one in the group that you can use. You can put on a fly mask. You can do all sorts of things. And if they're overweight, get fit. If your animals are overweight, get fit. This is your public service announcement to go take your dogs for a walk. Okay, because it's good for you and it's good for them. It decreases your cortisol level, and cortisol stores fat. So one of the best things that you guys probably have seen my before and after pictures, that I've lost 40 pounds in the last several months. And a lot of that is just from, I don't run, I don't go to the gym, I don't even do Pilates anymore. I just take my dogs for a walk and go for a nice little 30-minute stroll pretty much every day. And that's it, because if I do more than that, since I'm, in my 40s now, more than that, it will actually increase the stress in my life. And that actually makes things worse for me, and it makes it harder to lose weight. Limit injections. So this is where the vaccine conversation gets in there. Definitely do your puppy and kitten vaccines. And then, if you have an indoor cat that's never exposed to cats ever, like that's pretty much all they need. Do the rabies by law, but do the thimerosal-free rabies, or do titers, and to get the 3-year vaccines whenever you can. And then make healthy lifestyle choices. Make healthy lifestyle choices for yourself and for your animals. Make sure you give lots of antioxidants. Fish oil is a great antioxidant. MCT oil is a great antioxidant. Blueberries, there's lots of foods that are very high in antioxidants that are great to feed as well. Antioxidants are free radical scavengers, and free radicals are what cause the mutations in cells that cause that if the body doesn't catch it, will turn into cancer. So antioxidants help prevent that. And that's very, very well researched and documented. That's the word I was thinking of earlier. All right. So what do you do if your animal gets it? MCT oil, Dana, is medium chain triglyceride. It's like a fractionated coconut oil, kind of. So MCT oil. Let's see. Let's see here. What do we got? Let me answer some of the questions in the chat real quick. I'm going to take a little break here before we get into what if my animal gets it. Oh my gosh, you guys are making me sad. was literally the best dog in the world. Besides Lucy. Lucy's also the best dog in the world. She's kind of on my bad dog list right now because she keeps getting, because it's springtime and so there's like animals and stuff around. So she keeps chasing something underneath the deck of our house and she can't get out. She can get in, but she can't get out. And she's good. It's very annoying. Evelyn, yes, all the definitions are also true for humans. Oh, Stephanie, I'm so sorry. Hemangiosarcoma sucks. Suzanne, kelp is great. Kelp is great as well. That's one of those super greens that we were talking about. All right. I know I look like I'm 26. I know I'm in my mid 40s now at this point. All right. So yes, that's right, Aunt Nancy. That's right. Okay, how do you spell that? Okay, so what do you do what do I do if my animal gets it? So the first thing is to work with your veterinarian and your care team. They want your animal to live as long as possible, as do you. And then if it makes sense, consult with an oncology specialist, a veterinary oncologist. A lot of the vet schools have an oncology department. That's quite good. Some of them even use essential oils, you guys. And then every type of cancer requires individual care, and every patient requires individual care, and every care strategy for every individual animal is going to be a little bit different, and it's going to be based on a lot of different things, including you as the owner, your ability to, and willingness, and kind of like what, and sometimes there's costs involved that it's a little cost prohibitive to do stuff. And sometimes you just want to do everything, but you look at your animal and you're like, this is not the best thing for this animal, right? So every case is a little bit different. The cool thing is essential oils can be used in almost every case. So treatment of cancer may include surgery. It may include chemotherapy. It may include radiation. It may include all three of those. It might include cryosurgery, hyperthermia, immunotherapy. It should always include pain management. There are very few cancers that are not painful. Lymphoma is one that's not super painful. It's the side effects of the enlarged lymph nodes that can cause some distress in animals, but it in and of itself is one of the more gentle, pain-free cancers, I guess. I can't believe I'm saying that. Okay, definitely consider dietary changes. Nutrition is really important, and a lot of times I'll recommend, like for dogs, a ketogenic diet, and certainly for cats, possibly a ketogenic or at least a raw, kind of raw or homemade cooked diet. These animals do really, really well on that, except for melanoma. Don't go keto with melanoma. Okay, so melanoma actually likes fats, so low fat is actually better for that. And then other therapies as needed. So acupuncture in a lot of cases makes sense. Chinese herbs make sense in a lot of cases. Essential oils always make sense, but I'm incredibly biased. Herbal remedies, other herbal remedies like Western herbs, also very good. Mushrooms are amazing, and mushrooms are also very immune supportive, and so they're really good to give as a preventative as well. Homeopathies will sometimes make sense as well. CBD oil, a lot of times in really hard cancer cases, I'll do both essential oils and CBD, and maybe all of the above. Ozone is really, really big right now and is showing a lot of promise. I really like it. I personally don't use it, but I know people that do, and I'll refer people if they want to have ozone done on their animals. I support it 100%. And then there's this, what Vera's Boxers or something like that came up with this Tagamet, like cimetidine Benadryl combination. I think it makes sense for some types of cancers, maybe like mast cell tumors. That might make sense. I've had people do this protocol with and without essential oils. It seems to do better with the essential oils. Now, she will tell people to take them off all supplements and yada, yada, yada. I recommend using it with essential oils because I haven't seen it not be effective because of the essential oils, but I have seen it not be effective in and of itself. So, and I've seen it not be effective with both, but it's not, yeah. And I've seen just essential oils be effective. So kind of a combination of everything. But in my opinion, and based on the science and the research that's out there about essential oils and all the anti-tumoral properties, it just makes sense to include them. So here's how essential oils can help. A lot of essential oils have anti-cancer properties. So cancer actually has 3 stages when we're generally speaking, okay? So there's an initiation phase, which is when there's DNA damage. So there's damage to the DNA of a healthy cell, and then that healthy cell mutates, and it could be due to a carcinogen exposure or the DNA repair mechanism has failed. And that's more common actually in older animals where the DNA repair mechanism is just not doing its job quite as effectively. And so that's when we start, now we have a cancer cell, right? Then we have that one cancer cell that starts the promotion phase. So it starts to proliferate, and then it gets to 1 cell becomes 2, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have hyperproliferation. Cancer cells are very, very good at reproducing. It is one of the things that they're very good at. That's when you start having promotion. The promotion stage is when you start having tissue remodeling. It starts invading other tissues. There's always inflammation associated with this. So our anti-inflammatory oils are really important. Actually for gene expression, etc. This is, my internet connection is unstable. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Are you guys good? Can you hear me? Thumbs up. All right. So progression is where we'll have some genomic instability. We'll have an accumulation of mutations. So there might be more than one mutation going on. There's more proliferation. The apoptosis has failed. So normally the body will say, this cell is bad, come kill it. And then the immune system will come and clean out the cells that are bad. But there's a failure of that, and so it doesn't kill the cancer cells, and then there's a DNA repair failure. All of this is going on during the progression stage. Essential oils actually possess anti-mutagenic, anti-proliferative, antioxidant, and detoxifying capabilities. And depending on what's going on, and this link right here, this is in the group, the anti-cancer properties of essential oils and other natural products. The scientific research article is a really good summary of a lot of the different research that's out there up to 2018. Okay, I think it came out in 2018. So there's more information even now, but essential oils will actually, different constituents, the chemistry of depending on the essential oil will actually affect all 3 of these, or just one, of these 3 stages. And so that's important to know, because if we could stop the initiation of it from ever happening, that's going to be really, really significant. And if we can help the body clean up what's already there and not have that apoptosis failure, then we are going to have some significant improvement in these tumors. Okay. So essential oils can actually prevent oxidative damage to cells in the first place. It can prevent mutagen formation and increase apoptosis or killing of the cancer cells. A lot of essential oils are really cell specific as well, in that they recognize that healthy cells are healthy and they don't damage them, but will help the body get rid of the cells that are not healthy. It's really, really fascinating. And it has to do with homeostasis. Okay, so there are and based on the research articles that I reviewed just for this presentation, lemongrass is one of the oils that has been proven to be anti-mutagenic. Oils that promote apoptosis of the cancer cells they actually get rid of the cancer cells. Frankincense, thyme, and oregano. And Litsea has been studied specifically for lung cancer cell apoptosis. So Litsea, frankincense, thyme, oregano, lemongrass so far. And then our highest, our oil that is just like off the charts antioxidant is clove. And that's good for all types of cancer. Essential oils have incredible specificity. They target the cancer cells and they do not harm healthy cells. And this is the article that I was talking about, the anti-cancer properties of essential oils and other natural products. Definitely go check that out. That's over on PubMed. If you want to look that up, it's a free public article. So let's get into some of these oils. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to hurry up a little bit here. So frankincense, based on the research, is shown to promote apoptosis of cancer cells. It's anti-proliferative, so that proliferation phase, the promotion phase of cancer, it stops that. It's cytotoxic to cancer cells, so it kills the cancer cells. It's anti-inflammatory, so we know that inflammation is part of the cancer stage process, and we want to address that. And the epigenetics of it is that it actually changes the lysosomes, and both the digestive and excretory lysosomes. So what epigenetics is, if this is kind of getting a little deep, but I know some of you guys like this stuff. If you're like, dude, this is way over my head, just ignore this part. Epigenetics is the study of how behaviors in the environment can cause changes that affect the way genes work. Epigenetics is the study of how behaviors and environment can change, cause changes that affect the way genes work. Epigenetic changes are reversible. So it's stuff on the outside, behavior and environment, that changes gene expression. But if you change the behavior and change the environment, you can actually change those, the genes will actually work more the way that they're supposed to. It actually changes how the body reads a DNA sequence. So it's really cool. Essential oils fall into one of 6 zones of epigenetic influence: circulatory, respiratory, digestive, excretory, lymphatic, immune, muscular, reproductive, immune, nervous, and skeletal integumentary. So frankincense is an analgesic oil, so it's really good for pain. A lot of these types of cancers, there is a pain component, and this can really help with that. It is an antioxidant, and it promotes a healthy cell cycle. So it's really good for DNA. It is anti-tumoral, and it is good for all types of cancer. And specifically, it has been tested, or it's been really found very effective against bladder cancer, cancer of the pancreas, and breast or mammary cancer. Copaiba, the epigenetics is lysosomes, digestive, excretory, very similar to frankincense. It is an analgesic. It's anti-inflammatory. It's wound healing. And the types of cancer it specifically is effective against, again, all kinds of cancer for copaiba, but specifically it's been studied in liver, pancreas, breast or mammary, adenocarcinomas, and colorectal cancer. Remember that beta caryophyllene. And a lot of times I will use copaiba. It affects the endocannabinoid system, and just like very similarly to how CBD affects the endocannabinoid system, except CBD is a very large molecule, very large molecule. It actually has to be broken down in order for cells to receive it, for it to bind to the receptors. Copaiba has much smaller molecules, and it does not need to be broken down more in order to attach or go into cells. And frankincense, actually, the molecules can cross the blood-brain barrier, so it is really helpful in brain cases as well. Okay, sorry, I forgot those 2 little things. Sandalwood, the epigenetics are circulatory and respiratory, so it affects the endocytic vesicles. And it's analgesic, so it's pain relieving. It's anti-tumoral. It's anti-inflammatory, and specifically, it prevents pro-inflammatory cytokines. It stimulates lymph drainage, so it helps those lymph nodes drain if they're clogged up. And the types of cancer it has been studied and found effective against are bladder, skin, especially UV-induced damage, sun damage, and it's very preventative in nature. So sandalwood and copaiba and frankincense are all in the Kill It blend. Indian sandalwood and Hawaiian sandalwood are very similar from a from a chemistry standpoint. So they're both going to work. Okay, pink pepper, the epigenetics is currently unknown, but it is anti-cancer, antioxidant. It's great for neuropathic pain. And the types of cancer it's been found to be effective against are colon cancer, liver, breast cancer, mammary cancer. And I put a star by that one because I think it's the best against that one. Bladder, leukemia, and cervical. Helps affect hormones. Myrrh, the epigenetics is circulatory and respiratory. It's anti-inflammatory, anti-tumoral. It's a cell rejuvenator. And the types of cancer it's very effective against are breast or mammary. Skin cancer, even more so than frankincense, which is why, I mean, myrrh is in almost every single skin recipe that I have, you guys, and that's for a reason. And it decreases DNA damage, especially done in skin cancer cases. Okay, so really good for those skin lesions. Myrrh, also in the KiloBlend. All these are in the KiloBlend. Then we have turmeric, and turmeric, the epigenetics are musculoskeletal and reproductive, so a little bit different on this one. It is an antioxidant, it's anti-cancer, analgesic, so pain relieving, it's anti-inflammatory, it's anti-tumoral, and the types of cancer, it's been studied a lot. This one is, I think, been studied the most. It's effective against ovarian, lung carcinoma, melanoma, leukemia, prostate cancer, lymphoma, liver tumors, and oral fibrosis. It reverses the damage in oral fibrosis. And finally, if my internet connection is still hanging out, DDR Prime is our blend that contains a lot of the oils that we talked about today. So clove, remember our very, very popular antioxidant, is extremely good for skin cancer as a preventative. It's excellent, has excellent activity against breast, colorectal, lung, cervical, prostate, esophageal, and leukemia cells in leukemia. Thyme is highly toxic to breast cancer, prostate cancer, oral, and lung cancer cells. It prevents tumor formation and triggers apoptosis of liver cancer cells and glioblastomas or glioblastomas, which are in the brain. Elixia, we talked about Elixia a little bit, decreases proliferation of lung, liver, and oral cell cancers, cancer cells. And so this Elixia specifically targets the proliferation stage, right? Wild orange detoxifies cancer-causing molecules, triggers apoptosis of cancer cells, decreases malignancy in colon cancer and other types of cancers. Frankincense, we already talked about. Lemongrass causes apoptosis of lung cancer cells. It's protective against DNA damage, against breast or mammary cancer, and destroys leukemia cells through multiple different pathways. Summer savory has strong antioxidant properties and prevents DNA damage. And Nioli is known for its antioxidant properties. These are the oils that make up DDR Prime, which is a doTERRA blend. And I want to just say, I did a kind of a case study review for the different cancer cases that have been submitted to me in level 1 and level 2 in the animal aromatherapy specialist certification. We have over 1,000 case studies have been presented. A lot of these were cancer cases. The cancer cases that were most successful with my students are the ones that included DDR Prime in their protocols. And I just looked this up last night, guys. So because I was doing a presentation for it. So I thought that was really interesting. I don't know that I'm ready to be like, that's the be all end all. But I do think it's really important to include either DDR Prime or On Guard Plus in your cancer protocols internally because of that. So here's an example protocol. This one's for dogs. We can definitely talk about modifying it for horses or cats, but you would want to use 1 to 2 drops each of copaiba, frankincense, turmeric, and DDR Prime orally 1 to 3 times a day. If it's a dog that's over, I would say 25 pounds, you can do the DDR Prime capsule or the On Guard Plus soft gel, okay? You want to give high doses of omega-3. So 500 milligrams per 10 pounds of body weight of a fish oil-based omega-3. If it's a cat, you want to use a fish oil-based omega-3. If it's a horse, you want to use something like flaxseed instead, a plant-based omega-3, okay, or algae. You want to use a mushroom supplement. There's a lot of great mushroom supplements out there. I put Dr. Mercola's on here if you want, but a mushroom supplement that is a good high quality that doesn't have fillers in it. That's just mushrooms. Apply 1 to 2 drops of Balance along the spine and on the ear tips once or twice daily. You can do the Balance with cats as well, or you could use like I would actually prefer you guys use the stronger blend with kitty cats. And do that on their ear tips and along their spine. That one is very, very effective as well. It's got Litsea in it. It's got rose in it. It's got frankincense in it. Okay. And then of course we have the Kill It blend. And so this is kind of, some of you guys just came for this. The Kill It blend is, and somebody in the group actually named it. I didn't actually come up with the Kill It blend, but I like it so much. That's what we call it now. I can't remember who, it was several years ago that they came up with it. But it's 4 to 6 drops each of sandalwood. You can use, I recommend Hawaiian, but you can use Indian. They're both equally as good. Frankincense, arborvitae, pink pepper, myrrh, and copaiba in a 10 milliliter roller bottle. So an empty 10 milliliter roller bottle, top it off with a carrier oil, like fractionated coconut oil, and or even better, hemp oil. Okay, hemp oil. And apply this over the tumor sites. And if it's internal, just kind of in that area or along the spine, 3 to 5 times a day. You want to get pretty aggressive with application of this particular blend. If it is a mast cell tumor, mast cells release histamine and are very itchy. You want to include an antihistamine oil in there as well. That would be lavender or Roman chamomile. My top choice would be lavender. A lot of times we'll want to have these guys get some additional help through some veterinary acupuncture. And there's a Chinese herb from Jingtang Herbals called Stasis Breaker, and there's a bone stasis breaker for osteosarcoma that I almost always like to include in my acupuncture cases, my in-person cases. And then you'll want to consider a raw or homemade cooked ketogenic diet, and ketopetsanctuary.com is a great place for that. You can actually type in what you have and they can come up with a formula for you. It's a very helpful food calculator. And remember, you don't want to use the ketogenic part of it if you have a cancer like melanoma. And then add a multivitamin. You guys know I like Nuvet Plus. You can go to nuvet.com, use code 27702 for checkout. Digestive support as tolerated. So use some digestive enzymes like Terrazyme, some probiotics like PBSS Plus, or some kefir or plain Greek yogurt or raw goat's milk. Symptomatic support based on need. So if there's tummy upset, use some Digestin or some ginger or some cardamom. If there's, a wound, add some helichrysum, add some tea tree if it's a horse, add some, lavender to it, or some Roman chamomile or yarrow palm. Yarrow palm is another really good one for breast cancer, you guys. And then diffuse oils based on need. The calming oils are really helpful. The anti-inflammatory oils are really helpful. All the oils that we talked about tonight, any of those would be fine. Antioxidant oils, just be careful diffusing like straight clove or something. That's pretty hot. So that's kind of an example of protocol. For horses, you don't have to get, too crazy. You can still use the Kill It blend, all the oils you can use. You can also use DDR Prime directly on the tumor for horses most of the time. Just know that it's irritating to healthy skin sometimes. So make sure you get it just on the tumor, or you can do straight frankincense or straight, and a lot of times I don't dilute oils for horses with skin cancer, which is the most common thing that they have. All right. That is it. Let me see if we're kind of at our hour. Let me see if there's any questions in the chat here. Epigenetics are super interesting. Yes. Laura, you want to apply the oils directly to the area. I don't use clove in cats a ton, Gina, but it is safe for them. Just don't, obviously don't use it undiluted. We always dilute for topical use, right? Somebody says, if my dog won't take DDR Prime internally, recommend topical instead. I do not. I recommend putting it in a capsule and giving it like a pill. So Debbie says, I don't have 2 of those for the Kill It blend. What can I use in place of arborvitae and pink pepper? I'm not going to tell you to replace them because they're in that blend for a specific chemistry and a specific reason. So what I would recommend you do is make up the blend without them and then order them. And then whenever you order them, you can add them to it. But make it up without it, and you can just start with those other four. For sure. For sure, for sure. Okay. Karen, so will the Kill It blend, will that damage healthy skin as well? No. So this particular blend, I mean, if you compare the oils, sandalwood, frankincense, arborvitae, pink pepper, myrrh, copaiba, lavender versus clove, thyme, lemongrass, summer savory, nioli, these are hot oils in DDR prime, very, very hot oils. So they can be very, very irritating to skin, which is why I like it internally. These oils are all anti-tumoral. There's tons of science behind every single one of these, which we talked about tonight a little bit. I didn't like show you guys the research articles, but you can look them up if you want. These are gentle on the skin and anti-inflammatory in nature and very, very soothing. So it will not irritate the skin. It should not irritate the skin. Now, I will say the Kill It blend, sometimes when you apply it to a tumor, the tumor gets really mad and will actually die. And it'll actually look worse before it looks better sometimes. But you know, it's usually just, it's short-lived how bad it looks. Just don't give up, keep applying it. Unless it gets too crazy for too long. You know, if it goes 2 weeks and it's still not improving, then I'll probably stop it and switch to something else. Joelle, the DDR prime soft gels, you'll give one twice a day, 2 to 3 times a day if their stomach will tolerate it. But one soft gel for dogs over 25 pounds once or twice a day. And then if they're under that, just 1 drop in their food. So we don't use DDR prime topically on cats. Some people have, and it's been fine. You just have to dilute it significantly. And you can always use, I just recommend using stronger instead. But all of these oils, these ones are all fine. The ones listed on this slide are fine for cats as well. Let's see. Gina, can you diffuse turmeric around cats? Absolutely. Rhonda, should oils be given slowly or just go for it full dose? If the dog has cancer or the animal has cancer, I just go crazy and I get really aggressive. But I'm also very comfortable with my aggressiveness. So if you're not comfortable with it and or maybe your dog has a really sensitive tummy, you might start with just one oil and then gradually increase. And especially if they get sick with one of them, then you want to know what it was that actually caused the sickness so you can take that one out. So, you know, start with just some copaiba. That's usually very well tolerated. Maybe add in some frankincense after a couple of days if everything's going good, and kind of go from there. Laura, how do you get a small dog to take a capsule? I just mix it in with my small dog's food. She just eats it, but you can put it in a pill pocket. You can hide it in a treat and give it that way. And when you do that, give a treat without the pill in it. Wait until they swallow it, give the treat with the pill in it, and then give them a treat without the pill in it. So there's like 3 treats with the pill in the middle of it. And then you can just hide it that way. Or you can pill the dog, which is when you put it behind the hump in their tongue and have them swallow it that way. Let's see. For those of you that are asking questions outside of cancer, be sure to post that in the group for the Sunday discussion. All right. Nanette, I don't really like that particular one, to be honest. I have not had good success with that one. Everybody says good. Okay. All right, you guys. Karen says, is the use of copaiba, frankincense, turmeric, and DDR prime okay for prevention? 100%, especially for dogs that are over, that are over 7 or 8 years old. I for sure give those to them because guess what? Those oils are really good for the brain. They're also really good for the joints. They're also my favorite oils for arthritis. So really, really good. All right, you guys, that is all the time. If you guys have questions that I didn't get to, I apologize, but Sandra, the alternative to balance would be balance. You can actually use balance on cats. You can use steady if you want. I like stronger. I really like stronger for cancer in kitties. I really do. It's very gentle. So all right. So if you guys, oh, hold on. So we have some announcements real quick, and we have one more giveaway. So next month's webinar, you guys, is on allergies in animals. Okay, so this, just like tonight, maybe a little bit more fun, hopefully, and not as depressing. But we're going to talk about allergies and what causes them and how we can help them with our natural remedies. And then we're going to do that on April 21st. That's a Friday at, Friday? Yes, I think that's a Friday at 7 p.m. I'm pretty sure that's when we're going to do it. And then if you are new to the group, just make sure that you have, and you are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to miss that allergies webinar. Make sure you have auto renew checked in the membership portal at essentialoilvet.com so you don't miss it. And so that because if you're only registered for a month, then you might miss it. Webinars are exclusive to members. So you have to be an EOVET member to get access to those. And then remember, every Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Time, I'm live on Zoom, just like this, for the Ask the EOVET Q&A. I really encourage you guys to come live. We haven't been having a lot of people come live, and I would just really like you guys to start coming to those. And you can get your questions answered by me, or you can post them in the group under the Ask the EOVET post. It has to be under that post. Those are the ones that I actually answer on Sundays, or the Ask the EOVET post in the comment section in the membership portal. You can do it in either one of those places. I answer both of them every Sunday. So definitely come to that. Make sure your auto renew is on so that you don't miss the allergies webinar next month. And let's do our last giveaway. This is a big one. We talked a lot about DDR Prime, so I'm going to give away DDR Prime oil and an Immortelle anti-aging oil. We didn't specifically talk about this one, but the oils in this one are frankincense, lavender, sandalwood, myrrh, helichrysum, rose, and rose. So these particular oils, they sound kind of familiar, right? You can actually use this as an anti-cancer blend topically as well. So really, really good. Okay, so who wants this one? Comment, I don't know, your favorite oil in the chat. What's your favorite oil? Oh my goodness. Yes. Okay, good ones. You guys like some good oils. Who is the winner? This is a big one. I usually don't do this big of ones in here. You guys like some frankincense? Serenity, Copaiba, Balance. Balance is my favorite too. Stronger, Litsea, Wild Orange. Okay, the winner is, ready? Sandra Burton. Sandra, send me an email with your mailing address and we will get these out to you. And I will see you guys on Sunday. All right, guys. Thank you for sticking around. Bye, everyone.